Welcome back to 843 TV. We are now joined by the president of the Spring Island Trust, Mr. John McCarter. John, how are you?
Fine, thanks.
Thank you for having us here today. This is awesome. So how did you find Spring Island? How did you get involved?
Well, I was in Miami after living around the world and wanted to get back to the Carolinas, looking at in coastal Georgia, South Carolina. And my late wife, who was an artist, was reading an article in Southern Living magazine that was about Spring Island. This was January of 2005. And she said, you know, John, this sounds like your kind of place. You might want to check it out. And I did. And by June 1st, we own property here.
John, as you were looking at that, how important was having the Spring Island Trust here in your decision to buy on Spring Island?
Well, you know, as a newbie coming here, I didn't fully appreciate at the time the dynamics of different organizations, which I much better understand today. But what was important is the nature of Spring Island, the presence of it. That a third of this island is managed as nature preserve, but then in addition, there's a lot more property that gets managed in a certain way that's similar to the way we do the nature preserve. So basically about half the island is like living in nature, and that was very, very important. I then understood all of the other activities, the nature, not just the nature, but the arts and trips and tours and things like that, and we'll talk some more about that. But it was very important for what I saw here that was different than everywhere else.
Which activities are important to you, and do you find that are more popular with the members here? Well,
obviously we've got the nature aspect of it, and we've got many programs that feed off of that. There's 35 miles of trails on the island that can be enjoyed by walkers and people on horseback. If you stretched out all those trails, it would reach between here and Savannah. So,
wow.
Although it's a little quicker to drive there than it is to take a horse.
Some days,
but some days, right? But the arts programs. I mean, I grew up in a family with artists. I was married to an artist for many years, and she ended up being a professor at SCAD in Savannah College of Art and Design. So the art's very important. But getting out and catching big redfish and throwing nets into the Great Salt Pond to catch shrimp and whatever is a big part of what I enjoy. And then just all the way on the other end, the trust talks, very informative. Really like to do those on Thursday nights. And then even trips and tours, we host practice rounds at the Masters and things like that. So you can take advantage of a lot of different activities from the trust standpoint.
It's a very, very unique place, and that is not even a good explanation to get it started. But another unique thing about Spring Island, you being the chair of the Spring Island Trust, private communities always have a community association or a POA, but Spring Island has both a POA board and a Spring Island Trust board. So how does that work, and why is that important?
Well, it took a lot of foresight to set that up. You cannot do this after the fact. It has to be done because you have to bake in the covenants all of the protections for the different organizations. And while each board and each entity has its own responsibilities, in the case of the trust, we'd look after all these activities, but we are the steward of a big part of the property on the island and how the habitat is managed for the flora and fauna. But what we do to integrate all of this, because it is one community, the board chairs of each one of these boards sit on the respective boards. And then we make a concerted effort to make sure that the agendas are understood. We don't, any kind of documents, minutes of meetings and things like that are all exchanged, and so that we make sure that we look at that. And then the community itself is engaged with the trust. Obviously, they're engaged because they're paying dues to the Property Owners Association,
they have an interest.
But they have an interest with us too. We're supported financially through real estate transactions, but in addition, we benefit a great deal from the generosity of the members who contribute to a 501c3 foundation on behalf of the trust as well. So there's a great deal of engagement, and it's a big island in many respects, but it's a small community as well.
Well, and it sounds to me like that's a great opportunity for everybody to keep a good balance between everybody and keep everybody's best interests at heart.
You might say that the separate organizations kind of promote a community dialogue.
Right.
Well, we're here at these beautiful Tabby ruins, which shows people have been here for hundreds of years, and Spring Island, as it is today, has been here 25 years. And how are those things connected, and what do you see the trust doing for the future of Spring Island?
Well, it's an important time, as you mentioned. This is the 25th. We're coming up on the 25th anniversary of Spring Island as we know it today. And 25 years is a long time, but this was set up for the long run. And by having the structure that we have today, we're protecting those interests that we find so special. When, as I said, when I came here, I knew I loved it. I loved it instantaneously, but I didn't understand why. As I've spent more time here, it's still a work in progress, and I'm still learning to understand why it is that I love this place so much. And that's part of what the legacy of the structure is all about, and why the trust is very important to the long-term benefit of the island.
That's great. And I assume there's information on the trust and the arts and all that on the website.
Absolutely.
At springisland.com.
Absolutely.
All righty. Well, thank you so much for being here with us.
You're welcome, and thank you.
Yes, sir. Stay with us. We'll be right back with one more segment of 843 TV.